Welcome back to the TSL3. This is the round of 16, day number 2. We're facing off in game number 3 of Adelscott taking on QXC. QXC is spawning in the bottom left on Crevasse as the red Terran, up 2-1 against his opponent, the Gateway Protoss. In the bottom right, spawning as in the blue color, is Adelscott.
And one thing that's important to mention about this map, just judging by the spawn locations, is since Adelscott is spawning in the bottom right side, that's slightly less valuable but super tempting and easy to secure mineral expansion in the main base. There's also one geyser there. It's going to be towards QXC via air, and we have seen QXC utilize drops in virtually every game, utilize air units as well with the Banshees. So that is going to be one thing that Adelscott's going to have to keep in mind in this game, especially since that expansion doesn't have any sort of rocks or anything blocking it like that. As we've seen in a lot of Blizzard maps, it is easy to secure, and the natural on this map is fairly far away from your main base, and so it can be difficult to defend that. So, I mean, if QXC wants to be aggressive here via air, it's going to favor him, just judging on the spawn locations.
Yeah, and that's a very key point to make, because often you want to take that safe expansion, especially if you're Terran, but we see Protosses do it as well, more often than not, taking that safe expansion. And the distance from your main tier expansion, it may look like a normal distance to walk there. However, from the expansion to the choke point, down by the destructible debris where your army is probably going to be sitting, is actually pretty far. And looks like none of this is going to have to be discussed, because Adelscott is going for a 15 Nexus.
Yeah, I do like to see this from Adelscott. Definitely going to be spicing it up a little bit. This will give him time to prepare for any sort of cloak or anything like that, just because he'll start teching up here in a little bit. And we'll see, though. I mean, it is towards QXC's base right now, and we'll see if QXC does anything sneaky, or if he's going to just decide to play standard from here on out. He is sending out, once again, a scout before Adelscott. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't know, but that SCV is going to be going the wrong way. It does look like the opener for QXC going to be standard here, and it's just going to be up to Adelscott to hold off any early aggression, and the longer he can guard those destructible debris on his ramp, the better.
So it looks like we have two greedy boys in this game, because QXC also taking his command center on 16. Adelscott not on the map to scout yet. He probably wants to get out there and see exactly what QXC is up to, but no, I don't want to put words in his mouth, because he says, hey, I'm just completely comfortable doing my thing. It doesn't really matter what's going on there. He's got 2 gateways on the way. Meanwhile, QXC still scouting the map. The problem with this map, in terms of scouting, is you have to come all the way back into the center and wind through all these passageways. So by the time QXC gets his SCV into the main base of Adelscott, he's going to be mining for like 20 minutes. It's just going to take so long to get in there. Second barracks going down for QXC, as well as the third barracks. I'm interested to see from Adelscott, when does he get his robo? That's going to be the key thing I'm looking from, especially since it's in his mind. He really got punished for not getting that last game.
Yeah, he did start that basically after the harassment started. Not a good situation to be in. The Cybernetics Core got to be wrapped up here. We'll see if this SCV can make it all the way down there before that Stalker actually finishes. It does look like QXC just moving out a little bit with his Marines. He just had them kind of attack queued and then told them to come back into the base. Probably just looking around for a scouting probe to kill it right away, and possibly for any sort of proxy or anything like that. And the expansion going to be finishing up here for Adelscott as well. So I think we may be in for a long ride here, as both players are, I mean, they both took that quick expansion. There's really no way for them to kill each other, especially since QXC is just getting a handful of Marines right now, as they are very cost effective, but always impossible to kill his opponent at this point. Getting 2 Zealots out right now, and the SCV did get here before the Stalker finishes, sees the expansion, and this is one nice thing about being Terran, is it takes a while for the Protoss to get out that Stalker to deny this.
Yeah, especially when you're dropping 15 Nexuses. Now with the second gateway finishing and Warp Gate research on the way, we've got a third gateway. Just going to bring up the production tab, make sure I don't miss anything. QXC has a bunker going on into his ramp. He's going to push out with just 2 Marines. Let's see if he tries to control the watchtower, or if he just wants to kill any probes that may be there. That's a little bit dangerous for my liking, but he probably just thinks that Adelscott not going to be out on the map with Stalkers. Unfortunately, Stalkers move faster than Marines, or fortunately if you play Protoss. Meanwhile, in Adelscott's main base, he's getting the robotics facility very well timed, as opposed to the game we saw game number 3 on Terminus RE. So I really like that he's made some, I don't know if this is an on-the-fly adjustment or if this is just a different strategy for this map, but regardless, he's made the appropriate adjustments that he needed to make specifically against QXC.
Just taking a look in QXC's base, he does have a very standard 3 racks going, and he is beginning stim, has not started those concussive shells, and a lot of people may say, well, concussive shells doesn't cost that much, why isn't he getting it right away? And it just has to go down to the exact build, and actually, go ahead, Chill, my thing is messed up.
Yeah, production tab showing stim packs on the way, right about a third right now. Of course, that has been changed to increase the duration on there. Just continuing with that. We've got the robotics making an observer. A lot of chrono boost saved up for Adelscott. I've noticed this in a lot of his games. He doesn't really start to put that chrono boost to work until the forges get out. And looks like he's not going to go for his forge style here. He's got his robotics bay on the way, about 50% complete. And going to go straight for those Colossi off 2 bases. I'm not sure I like this out of Adelscott. I prefer to see his style. It seems to work for him, but you know, as we said in the introduction to this match, he's not a one-trick pony. He can play different styles, so let's see how this works out for him.
Yeah, and the expansion in the main base only has that 1 geyser, so Protoss trying to do all of this off of 3 geyser. He's going to have to really micro like crazy to indeed pull this off, and the robotics bay is going to be done. Just looking at the gas, there is 200 for Adelscott right now, and it's going to be so difficult for him to transition out of this if he decides to be super aggressive here, because that is a lot of gateways. He does have 5 gateways now, and the robotics is done. He is chrono boosting out that first Colossus, and should be beginning his Thermal Lance upgrade pretty soon as well. Stimpack is going to finish, as well as combat shields, plus 1 attack on the way for QXC. So again, both players are just sitting back and macroing up. You can see that Adelscott is a little bit ahead in supply. I would say the majority of that, though, is just that he's getting a Colossus so quickly. So it's not that QXC's macro is slipping or anything like that. It's that his fully tech hasn't quite kicked in, and he does have his 3rd base on the way as well. Adelscott throwing his down a little bit behind, but again, both players taking their 3rd base at around the same time.
Yeah, and a big money scan from QXC going into the main base of Adelscott, seeing everything that's on the way, spotting that Colossi tech, so now he is well aware of that, moving out with this few infantry units. I'd be surprised if he actually attacked here, but going to move forward, tear down these destructible rocks, put a little bit of pressure on Adelscott. Extended Thermal Lance is not on the way yet, as you mentioned, only having 3 opportunities to make assimilators on this map really limits your ability to research that quick tech. And here's QXC doing that patented move, moving the single Marine forward, oftentimes stimmed, and he's getting aggressive here. Wow, this is dangerous.
Right here, he needs to be careful because if Force Fields trap them on the ramp, that entire army would melt away. Adelscott, though, not going to react in time. QXC preemptively realizing he needs to run away. Although, as mentioned before, those stalkers are faster. Looks like QXC decides to turn around and engage here. He does use Stim. I think he just wants to do as much damage as possible here instead of just doing a full retreat and losing a couple units for free. Able to take out a couple of stalkers there, but just running away right at the end of that Stim timing. This will, however, give Adelscott the ability to kill the destructible debris if he wants, trying to trap the units there with that force field. Not going to be able to. It does look like Adelscott will bust down these rocks, just opening up a slightly wider entrance, which is very crucial when you're trying to run Zealots, Stalkers, and Colossus up there. It gives you a nice little concave as you go up that ramp. So it looks like QXC scanned his own army. I'm guessing he was looking for an observer. There is nothing there to be found. And again, just sacrificing these Marines. If you're a Marine, you do not want to spawn in QXC's army because he sacrifices them heavily. And I don't think Adelscott will be able to kill his opponent here. I think he just wants to secure his own expansion.
Yeah, and he's got to feel very comfortable with his expansion. He knows QXC cannot push out here until he gets enough Vikings to really start harassing the Colossi, and at that point, Adelscott will have to pull back. So Adelscott comfortably gets his 3rd base up, and this is key. He gets 5 assimilators, so he's got 2 more to add to his main base, and his first present he's buying for himself is that extended Thermal Lance. Meanwhile, QXC has a dropship, controls the Marauders, a little bit of harassment with Stalker and Colossi at the ramp of QXC, taking out a single Marauder there, I believe, and the medevac forced to drain some energy, healing up those Marauders. We've got 4 Vikings out and no more on the way. He's got to get those to work. And meanwhile, the Marauder drop has started here at the natural of Adelscott, and he's not controlling his units to the best of his ability, losing a lot of Stalkers here to the nice micro of QXC. QXC running around, taking out the Stalkers. There's no blink. I don't believe there's even a Twilight Council on the map for Adelscott, so maximum efficiency here for QXC as he loads up and heads home.
Yeah, the medevac is able to escape there. Adelscott is pulling back his Stalkers. I don't know if QXC is flying this to the best of his ability, and it does look like the medevac will go down. That was really QXC's flaw. At the same time, though, there is some harassment in the center as he realizes the Stalkers are out of position. Able to snipe 1 Colossus, going for a 2nd Colossus as well. Can they get it? Yes. All these Vikings look like they'll be taken out, but at what cost? They were able to kill 2 Colossus and do a little bit of damage to the 3rd, and QXC realizes, okay, well now I've done that, I can go ahead and move out and engage this army directly. There is no Zealot charge, so the Zealots are painfully slowly getting down there, and once again going to be utilizing that micro with that Marauder slow. The Force Shield is going to trap these, but I think that it will do just fine. Loading them in the medevac, but he's going to lose the medevac, doing more damage to himself than Adelscott probably anticipated, so he tried to do a fancy little trick there, but it didn't quite work out.
That was a snap call by Adelscott, just taking down that medevac so quickly. And while I was watching that battle, I was trying to think, who's winning this battle? QXC gave up his drop, but Adelscott lost 2 Colossi, and then QXC lost the majority of his Vikings. It wasn't really clear, but with that final battle and snapping down that medevac, I feel like Adelscott comfortably in the lead, and it looks like the supply count would tend to agree with me, as we have 130 for Adelscott and 117 for QXC. QXC does get the luxury of getting his 3rd base up. He's got 1-1 upgrades on his units and a drop going on at the natural. Yet again, another Colossus going down, taken out by the medevac and Marauders, and now the supplies very, very even, 120 apiece. And as I say that, Adelscott warps in a bunch of stuff, screwing up what I was saying.
Really got a hand to QXC there. He did micro those 4 Marauders in order to kill that Colossus. And I'm looking at the units tab, keeping in mind we're 15.5 minutes into this game, where Adelscott pretty much rushed to Colossus. He only has 1 Colossus right now, which is devastating. So even though QXC has maybe lost some of these battles, the fact that he's kept that Colossus count down so low means that his Marines and Marauders will be effective and continuing to be effective as the game progresses forward. Now, we do have an escort of 3 medevacs being escorted by 3 Vikings as well. He can use these Vikings, of course, to kill the Colossus as well as land them should he want to. Although there is going to be 4 stalkers over here at the drop in the backdoor base, and unloading it. It looks like 1 medevac goes down, half full of Marines, and so this will be much more easy to defend for Adelscott. But those Vikings are here, being giant turds in his base, just taking out the Colossus once again, and just doing as much damage as possible. It does look like Adelscott will hold here, but once again losing probes and losing 1 Colossus against the Marauders. 2nd Colossus is going to go down, and Adelscott, he has tons of gateway units, but 0 Colossus after this drop.
Wow. There's 2 things I'm looking at here. There's 2 problems that are kind of running into each other head on. When you're playing Protoss and you don't go upgrade heavy, if you don't have those high-tech units like Colossi or High Templar, you eventually get to this situation, if you don't have charge or you don't have blink, where you attack and you just get completely crushed. On the other hand, QXC is playing a style where you harass to kill the high-tech units, but eventually you just don't have a backbone of an army, and, Protoss just comes and kills you. So I'm not sure who's getting the better of both of these situations. Of course, the supplies favoring Adelscott, but the upgrades favoring QXC, the tech favoring QXC, production tab showing QXC just continuing with his Viking tech, continuing with his upgrades. He's got a Ghost Academy on the way, which he desperately needs, and looks like he's going to tear down his backdoor destructible rocks and break out through there, and there's a monster army running down.
Here it comes right now, going to engage. There is bunkers on the low ground as an expansion. Keeping in mind, this is not a planetary fortress, as it is going to be at the natural. Tons of SCVs getting pulled off the line here to repair the bunkers. Adelscott running head on into this, actually microing up against the army before telling them to shoot. A 2nd Colossus is going to show up. However, the 1st Colossus is going to go down just barely, but it looks like Adelscott, look at the supply count, 132 to 82, just crushing his way in here, attacking right when that +1 attack finished. It really was paying off, even though QXC does have an upgrade advantage. He is losing this expansion. At the same time, though, he has expanded on the center left side, dropping a handful of mules there, 5 to be exact, and Adelscott able to crush that somehow with just gateway units, really using, I don't know how he does it, but able to lock that down, and the expansion completely destroyed. No SCVs really made it out of there, except for 1 confused SCV that is mining at that location now, and he's also running up his stalkers. He is going to spot this, could snipe some mules. That one is being upgraded to a planetary.
Yeah, so that's going to be able to take out the stalkers very easily. Now going down to focus down the mules, going to be able to take out, looks like just 1 before the planetary finishes with that giant cannon out the top of it, and he's forced to get out of there. A few Vikings running in to take some stalker fire, so 2 of those Vikings going down. Things are not looking good for QXC. Adelscott going to move forward and take out this planetary fortress very easily. Mules trying to repair it. Random force fields going down to isolate the repair, and looks like QXC is going to force to just sacrifice that.
Yeah, right now he's running into the center of the map. This is all he has, so as long as Adelscott cleans this up. I mean, QXC is only mining off of his main base right now, and those resources are dwindling as we are 20 minutes in the game. So here comes the stim. I think this is going to be it. There's so many gateway units here for Adelscott. There is going to be a GG from QXC, and wow, it looks like this is going to be all tied up. It is going to come down to the last game on the last map, which once again is going to be a macro-style map. And just looking at the upgrades of Adelscott, this time, as we mentioned throughout the game, but it still stands true at the end, very low on upgrades. He had just started his +1 armor upgrade. His +1 attack, of course, finished right when he did his massive attack, but somehow just doing so much damage with his micro, with his gateway units. I mean, he held off so many attacks, but essentially he gave away a Colossus or two every time that QXC dropped. So I think it all came down to that battle at the natural of QXC. That was really his only mining base left on the map. And then once he lost his 4th base, he was completely he was bone dry. There was really nothing else he could do at that point. So Adelscott playing very well, able to hold off those drops, and QXC trying to stick with Marine Marauder the entire way through. And there wasn't as many EMPs or things like that as we've seen in previous games. And what's crazy to me is that QXC had 2-2 upgrades just going against a 1-0 of the Protoss.
Yeah, I think had that game been kind of, surgically removed and grafted onto another map, we would have seen QXC hit the timing for the Ghost Academy a little quicker and have some ghosts out for EMP, as those sentries really did a number to him, as well as, of course, the shields on the Stalkers, the shields on the Zealots. But only having those 3 available refineries meant he had to choose, is he going to go for Vikings, upgrades, or Ghosts? And of the 3, he had to cut one of them, and he cut Ghosts. Just unfortunate for him that it didn't work out there, and I think Adelscott really hit a nice timing there. Had he waited and let that expansion really start mining that gas and a couple ghosts get out, I think we could have saw a different game. But when we were introducing this series at the start of the day, I feel like that was the game we were waiting for. QXC out on the map all game, harassing, dropping, really aggressive with his units, and taking a slower 3rd base, whereas Adelscott just kind of crouches and takes the beatings, lets QXC punch himself out, and then comes back and reverses it. So game number 5 now, we're going to be moving on to. And I feel like if we had to brand the maps as either Adelscott maps or QXC maps, Terminus Re, at least in my mind, would have been an Adelscott map. Crevasse would have been a QXC map. And now we're moving on to Tal'Darim Altar, which I feel like is in the dead center of the Venn diagram between the two.
Absolutely, and one last thing I want to mention about the game we just saw is QXC, the 4th base he took, the easier one to take, is only 5 minerals and 1 gas, and he decided not to take that one, instead opting to fly his command center to the one that is 8 minerals and 2 gas, so it is way better, and Adelscott was just taking his 4th base on the one that's only 5 minerals, so if he was able to hang on there, he would have had a nice little economic advantage, but Adelscott just finding the timing and utilizing it there to prevent him from being able to do that. So there's just so many mind games and so many good things that both players are doing that it's really not a surprise to me that we are on a game 5, just because I feel like both players are playing very well. I think the only game that's a little bit questionable was the very first game with QXC on the just starting off today's games, but after that he's really pulled it together, and we'll see. He will be kicking himself, I'm sure, if he ends up losing game 5, just because game 1 was such a wonky game, but both players playing really well, I would say, in all the other games.
Right, I've got to agree with you, and I think we're seeing it here. Both players have hit their stride, and this is the kind of series we really expected when we got into the TSL round of 16, and now we're seeing it here on Sunday, day 2. So we're going to answer some questions here as we move on to game number 5 between QXC and Adelscott right after this.